Hello, we're back. Today we're gonna go on to chapter 11 on page 89, the emergence of the treasure tower. This is the record of the orally transmitted teachings recorded by Nico, shown and translated by Burton Watson. We've been reading along at a pretty good clip here. We're gonna try and keep it up. In the meantime, I do want to go backwards by 1 point because it's really talking about the treasure tower and it's almost an introduction to this chapter. It says point 16 on the page, we got through to page 88 before, so I'm going to read basically all of page 88 again as a preface to starting into the chapter on the emergence of the treasure tower. So point 16 on the words, he will see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, Nichiren says, to see Buddhas, which is what we all want to be able to do. We want to be able to perceive life as Buddhas, and if you're a Buddha, then you see everything else as the Buddha. It's all connected to the original state, right? Whether it's been awakened or not, okay? So to see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands means to see the treasure tower. Now, what's a treasure tower? Our bodies themselves, our innate Buddhahood, are the treasure tower, okay? There's a gosho that's called, I think, Letter to a Butsubo or I'm pretty sure it's Letter to a Butsubo. And he qualifies, right now, your body is made up of the 5 elements, and I don't have those memorized, so I'll read them. Pardon me. Don't know what that is. Bottom line. The 5 elements, and he says directly to a Butsubo, I could read you the quote, I will at some point in time, that you should understand there is no other treasure tower than your body and mind. Your 5-foot frame body is not 16 feet tall. You yourself are the treasure tower. No other understanding is purposeful. Because this entire thing here now, when we get to the treasure tower, is very definitively a metaphor. I mean, up until now, there's been a lot of explication on the sutra by the Daishonin qualifying different aspects. At the point in time that the treasure tower comes out, now we're talking about something very supernatural because the treasure tower is 1/3 the size of the earth. If you multiply out so wide its dimensions, it's got to be a metaphor, okay? So what the Daishonin is trying to clarify here is that to see Buddhas numerous as Ganges sands means to see the treasure tower of your own life, which if that's the case, if you can see the treasure tower of your own life, your own original state, your own original Buddhahood, the thing that's always been with you, you're eternally endowed with the 3 bodies, then you see everybody else that way. And that's going to mean that you're going to see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands, refers to the Buddha many treasures of the treasure tower. Okay? So the name many treasures refers to the Dharma realm, the entire realm of phenomena. Okay? Treasures refers to the enlightenment into the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, to perceive that you have the potential as a Buddha nature. That's the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, is that revelation that the 10th world exists in all the other 9. Okay? That's the 10 times 10 that we get to the 100 with. Okay? So treasures refers to enlightenment into the... What's enlightenment? Just becoming aware of and having doubt-free faith about. To become aware of let me go backwards. The name many treasures refers to the Dharma realm, the realm of many phenomena. Treasures refers to enlightenment into the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. To see the Dharma realm as the Buddha many treasures, which is to see the Dharma realm as everything is a Buddha. Okay, everything is Buddha. As the Buddha many treasures. To see the Dharma realm as the Buddha many treasures, which would mean that you see everything in the Dharma realm as a Buddha, right? is to see Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands, which is what I've already explained without reading that. Therefore, the present chapter, Teacher of the Law, is followed by the chapter we're about to read, Emergence of the Treasure Tower. The Treasure Tower, second paragraph on page 88, the first full paragraph. The Treasure Tower is the vehicle in which the Teacher of the Law, who possesses practice and understanding, rides. Now, what vehicle do I ride in? I ride in the body and the mind with the reward body that I have. Okay, that's how I ride. I don't ride a white oxen cart or something like that. I am a Buddha exactly as I am, and I've been eternally endowed with the three bodies, and so subsequently you can't take that away. That's always been there. That'll always be there. That's what I do. This is my thing. I come back into life each time, and I stumble onto Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and I'm essentially buried in benefit to the point that I lose my correct understanding and instead morph into something else that has to ultimately transform into what I really am, which is the Buddha. And that's what's happened in my life. So the Treasure Tower is the vehicle, my life itself, is the vehicle in which the Teacher of the Law, me, who possesses understanding, practice, and enlightenment, rides. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are exemplifying wonderful understanding, the understanding of a Buddha, wonderful practice, the practice of a Buddha, and wonderful enlightenment, the enlightenment of a Buddha. That is, they exemplify unfathomable, because Buddhahood is unfathomable. The law is unfathomable. Okay? So they exemplify in that process then unfathomable understanding, unfathomable practice, and unfathomable attainment. In other words, no one can imagine the depth or the profundity of what they're actually accomplishing with their treasure tower. Okay? This means that they have gained enlightenment, which I have, into the truth of the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Not theoretically, actually, this is stage 6. This is talking about you are the Buddha, man. Once you realize you're the Buddha, you are the Buddha. That's exactly what he says in chapter 16. The word Ganges in the phrase Ganges sands denotes a river that washes away evil and brings forth good, which is what the transformation in the human revolution process does for any individual. You don't become a Buddha as an evil person. You become a Buddha by transforming that innate evil that exists in all things from the hell and hungry spirits and animality into the life state of the Buddha of beginningless time. No difference between you and any other maxed out maximum Buddha, because you're a Nam-myoho Renge-kyo Buddha. You're a Nam-myoho Renge-kyo thus come one. And that's what he's trying to qualify here. Ganges sands denotes a river that washes away evil and brings forth good. Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands means that every single word of the sutra represents a Buddha body golden in color, all living beings. You should think carefully about the word see. It refers to the insight or vision of a Buddha, because we don't see this with our eyeballs, we see this with our mind. Okay? There's a huge difference. One just stimulates your brain. The other one stimulates the reward body. Do you understand? Okay, so the word following in the preceding line of the sutra means following this Buddha wisdom and vision. And to perceive it this way is Buddha wisdom and vision. The word see, in other words, I see things from the Buddha realm. The word see in the phrase he will see Buddhas and the seeing of the treasure tower refer to the two concepts of the insentient environment and the living self. The sea of seeing Buddhas as numerous as Ganges sands represents the living self, because I have the reward body activated and I understand the truth and the reality of my life. Okay? The sea of seeing the treasure tower represents insentient in life. Okay? So I can't say that those plants have mind. That's why they're called insentient, okay? But they have everything that I have as a component of being here, okay? And in their absence, I couldn't be here, okay? So all living beings is everything, and it's all connected because it's all mutually dependent. It manifests because of everything else. It's a crazy deal. It's not a process of creation. It's a process of manifestation. Everything, okay? So, going on to chapter 11, and you can see this can make me I'll be very emotional reading through this whole thing. I'm so sorry. But I have such gratitude for what I understand from the depths of my life, and I'm trying to share it. That's all. Page 89.1 on the chapter 11, the emergence of the treasure tower, 20 important points. Point 1, concerning the treasure tower. Words and Phrases, volume 8 says the former Buddha many treasures. And why is he a former Buddha? Because he's already passed into extinction, but obviously he hasn't really passed into any real extinction, because here he is in his treasure tower. Okay? The present Buddha, Shakyamuni, seats himself beside him. Future Buddhas will also do likewise. Okay? That's Words and Phrases. That's Tentai talking. Now the Daishonin says, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word treasure stands for the 5 components of life: form, perception, conception, volition, and consciousness or mind. You've seen me go through these 5 many times. The word tower stands for the harmony and combination of the 5 components. The 5 components functioning in harmony is designated a treasure tower. So when your mind of faith is correct, then your life is functioning as a treasure tower. Your physical body is holding this all together and keeping it in an animate state, right? It's able to breathe, it's able to consume nourishment, and so forth and so on. But they work in harmony with one another. Body never appears without mind. Mind cannot appear without body. Okay? The harmony of the 5 components emerges. That's that harmony. And is seen in the 5 characters of Myoho Rengekyo, because you perceive that you are the treasure tower because of this teaching of the inseparability of cause and effect, the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, and all the other aspects that are part of the Daishonin's liturgy. This is the meaning of the word ken, to emerge or to be seen, okay? We Buddhas emerge. We emerge from our mother's birth canal. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo exemplify the emergence of the treasure tower, because again, the treasure tower emerges from your own mind. It is the activation of your reward body. Point 2, on the 7 treasures in the passage at that time, in the Buddha's presence, there was a tower adorned with the 7 treasures. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, the 7 treasures are hearing, as in hearing the law, belief, keeping of the precepts, meditation, diligence, abandoning of attachment to earthly desires, and a sense of shame or reflecting on oneself. Or again, we may say that the 7 openings in the head, the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, and the mouth, 2 eyes. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are practitioners who are adorned with the 7 treasures, okay? Because our life has become one with the eternal law, right? We're bodhisattvas of the earth. We've manifest for the purpose of, upholding our vow. Hopefully we've gone through our entire existence in this lifetime accomplishing that and going into the state of non-existence without any fear or regrets. Because you can't change the past unless you change the present. Okay? That's how you do it. And then the future will change once you change the present. All right. Point 3, on the passage, all four sides emitted a fragrance of tamalpatra and sandalwood that pervaded the whole world. Words and Phrases, Tentai, Volume 8 says, the words all sides emitted a fragrance means that the wind of the way, represented by the Four Noble Truths, wafts a fragrance of the four virtues or paramitas, namely happiness, true self, purity, and eternity. And this is 20 important points long, and every 5 of them we'll talk about. 4 times 5 is 20, right? Okay, so 4 of these points are going to be about happiness, true self, purity, and eternity. Hopefully you'll recognize that as the underlying message of each of these important points. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the words, 4 sides, stand for birth, aging, sickness, and death. What are those? Those are the 4 sufferings, right? That's what means that means we manifested into this Sahe world. Okay, and eventually we will depart from it, but we don't really depart. Okay, we're ever present in reality. We're just not in a state of non-substantiality. We don't have a body. Okay, we use the aspects of birth, aging, sickness, and death, those 4 sufferings, to adorn the towers that are our bodies, because it's only because of those 4 sufferings that we're alive, and that we have mind and body, and that we can bring forth our innate 3 bodies that we've had since, from eternity, from beginningless time. And while in these 4 sides of birth, age, sickness, and death, we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we cause them to waft forth the fragrance of the 4 virtues of happiness, true self, purity, and eternity. Nam stands for the paramita of happiness, Myoho for the paramita of true self, Renge for the paramita of purity, and Kyo for the paramita of eternity. I'll say it again. Nam stands for the paramita of happiness, Myoho for the paramita of true self. True self, that means your true identity as whatever you karmically are. Okay? Renge for the paramita of purity, because the lotus, its roots are down in the muddy bottom of the pond, and yet it still gives way to these beautiful lotus flowers. Okay, that's that. And Kyo for the paramita of eternity, and that's because this Kyo, or teaching, this law, is the original state. It's the law of the original state. It's the law of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. It is eternal. It is the teaching that is eternal. It is the circumstance of life and karma that is eternal. No life ever goes through anything but this. Everything that you've heard me read about that preceded me and me reading this, it's all gone through the same process. There's nothing that separates us from those of the past, and nothing that separates us from those of the future. We have a mission in this moment, and as long as we accomplish that, we don't have anything else to worry about. Or we give it our best effort, and we can say at the end of our day, I did my very best. That's all you have to do. It's all karma. Make good karma for yourself. Good karma will emerge in your lives forever. Point 4. On the passage, at that time, a loud voice issued from the treasure tower, speaking words of praise. There was, of course, many treasures saying, excellent, excellent, Shakyamuni Buddha. It's exactly as you say. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says these are the words that we living beings utter each morning and evening. Okay? As to the fact that this is called a loud or a big voice, the provisional teachings are a small voice, while in comparison, the Lotus Sutra is a big voice. So what is he talking about? He says, these are the words that we living beings utter each morning and evening. It's chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, that's why he's able to say the Lotus Sutra is a big voice. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is a big voice. So if you're speaking in a loud or big voice, you're chanting Daimoku. Okay, in turn, the 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra are a small voice. Why? because it's the latter day of the law, and that's a provisional teaching now. Okay, so that's why we don't hang on to the Lotus Sutra as a text for the purpose of our salvation, or the purpose of manifesting our Buddha nature. Okay, again, Tiantai had access to that same concept of life, but he didn't have Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The thing that's different between Tiantai, the great teacher Tiantai, and us is that we're already Buddhists exactly as we are. We've already manifested that by virtue of embracing the law, and even just beginning to open the door of hearing the name and the words of the truth, and then walking through by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and taking faith in it, even for a single moment. Even for a single moment. That's how big that voice is. That's how big that voice is. In turn, the 28 chapters of Lotus Sutra are a small voice, while the Daimoku is a big voice. Okay, so there can be no comparison between the two. Do not get confused about the fact that we're quoting from Lotus Sutra, because that's a text that already has credibility and a means to express Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in the latter day without everybody having to become Tentai to do it. Okay, that's why we're able to accomplish widespread propagation only in this evil latter day, only in this evil age. Why? Because the karma of the people are collectively going to get bad enough that they start to look for salvation, and they're going to bring forth Nam-myoho Renge-kyo because of their karma from their life state. Generally speaking, the big or loud of the loud voice stands for the Dharma realm. Okay, because everything is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, that big voice. You get it? When one views the words of the living beings in the Dharma realm as the voice of the wonderful law, since they're all Buddhas, because we see them all as Buddhas, when they speak, we call it we perceive the wonderful law, the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This is what is called a big voice. Now the chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo by Nichiren and his followers is such a big voice. And if we perceive the inseparability of us and everything else, then we understand that everything else at its source is also Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So the voices of all living beings, it sounds all inclusive for no reason, but it's not, because it all goes back to the original state in the first place. All right? Again, we may say the word loud represents the truth of non-substantiality, the truth that we don't really die when we die, and that we emerge from someplace, and that's where we went when we seem to have passed previously. The voice represents the truth of temporary existence, okay? My temporary gathering of the five components is the only time that my body and mind are joined, and it's the only time that I can actually expound the laws of the Buddha. All right? Do you understand that? So the voice represents the truth of temporary existence. We're temporary existences, right? Okay. So, and that from which the voice issues, our body, our karma. I mean, you can't just say our body or our mind. This is like our eternal entity. Okay, our eternal Nam-myoho Renge-kyo entity. We're all the Buddhas that attain this Buddha way are all Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come once. Okay, so what he's saying is that from which the body issues represents the truth of the middle way. Our minds and bodies, which allow us to issue this truth, okay, represents the merging of temporary existence and non-substantiality into the form of a living being, right? So, point 5 on page 91. On the passage, at that time, the four kinds of believers saw the great treasure tower suspended in the air. Pardon me. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the words saw the great treasure tower refer to our individual bodies. So what's that talking about? It's talking about the sixth stage of practice when we realize we are Buddhists. It's not a theoretical construct anymore. We take on that. We don't care if people laugh or say, who do you think you are? The teaching says we're the Buddha, and therefore we accept and aspire to fulfill that reality, and our reward body is manifest at that point in time, and we're able to do what we wouldn't have been able to do as common mortals of the 9 worlds in the absence of Buddhahood and hearing the name of the words of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Without Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, you can't do any of this. With Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, you can do all of it. Point 5 on the passage, at that time the 4 kinds of believers saw the treasure tower suspended in the air. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the word saw the great treasure tower refers to our individual bodies, perceiving our own Buddhahood. Suspended in the air refers to the fact that we living beings in the end will pass away and return to our origin, which is non-substantiality. Okay? And now Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Now, when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and maintain faith in it, they are suspended in the air. They are suspending in and participating in the ceremony in the air. When we do that, we become a part of the assembly of the treasure tower. Pardon me, did I got it all over me? Good. We become part of the reality of the ceremony itself. Do you understand? So by living a couple thousand years later or whatever, we don't have to feel like, oh, I missed out on the ceremony in the air. No, you're performing it every day when you get in front of the Gohonzon and you chant Daimoku to it. So now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and maintain their faith in it, which means mugi washin, it means no matter what obstacles, you don't get moved, you don't get distressed, you don't get doubts, okay? They are suspended in the air. They have become a part of the ceremony in the air. They are actually already going to become Buddhas. They are suspended in the air or participating in the ceremony in the air. Or participating in the ceremony in the air. That's Nichiren Daishonin saying that. Point 6 on page 91. On the passage, long ago, in an immeasurable 1,000, 10,000 million asamyaks of worlds to the east, in a land called Treasure Purity, there was a Buddha named Many Treasures. Continuing, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says the Treasure Purity world, okay, from which Many Treasures emerged, right? Okay, that's where Many Treasures hung out. Many Treasures is everybody in the Dharma, it's everything in the Dharma realm. So he's saying here now, the Treasure Purity world, which is Many Treasures spot, okay, long ago, in an immeasurable amount of time, in a land called Treasure Purity, there was a Buddha named Many Treasures. He's an ancient Buddha, right? Okay, so the Treasure Purity world, the source of our lives, is the wombs of our mothers. That's exactly the case. Wow, what a great teaching. It actually coincides with actual medical, physical kinds of reality, right? The record of the orally transmitted teaching says that Treasure Purity world is the wombs of our mothers. There was a Buddha refers to the Buddha of the true aspect of all phenomena. The Buddha of the true aspect of all phenomena is the Buddha of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. We who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are all such a Buddha. Here he is called Many Treasures for the sake of expressing this to an assembly that doesn't understand Nam-myoho Renge-kyo yet when this is being preached before the former day of the law. Now when Nichiren, the womb is the reality of earthly desires. Okay, there was a Buddha refers to the Buddha of the true aspect of all phenomena. Here he is called Many Treasures. The womb is the realm of earthly desires. The Buddha of the true aspect of reality resides in the midst and mud of earthly desires. In other words, we can only attain Buddhahood in the threefold world. We can only do it in the lowest one, the world of desire. Okay? Because we've got to be motivated to go through what we got to go through to get past the Phantom City and to reach the treasure tower. Okay? So this then says, now when this refers to us living beings. The womb of the realm of earth is the realm of earthly desires. The Buddha of the true aspect of reality, the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one, resides in the midst of the and mire of the earthly desires. This refers to us living beings. He says this refers to us living beings. We Buddhas, we're all living beings, right? All living beings, we're Buddhas. So I should have said it backwards. And now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they may be termed the Buddha of the lotus, that is the entity of the law. So what did that just say? Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they may be termed as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come once. Okay? Which is what we're going to read about when we get to chapter 16. All right? So I'll continue. Point 7. Now I got to take a break. I'm going to pause on point 7. We'll come back at the bottom of page 91.